and think about our friend Charlie Brown from Schenectady. All right, thank you. For anybody who knew Charlie, it's a big loss for us this past week. I knew Charlie pretty well. I played with him in a couple spiels and played against him, so that was terrible news to get last week. Moving on, I wanted to have this this town hall specific to the at-large playdown discussion. And just for clarity, before we get started, I would like to keep it focused on that subject. We are having another larger town hall on November 30th, where we'll discuss other issues and progress we're making at USA Curling. And we will also have a college curling town hall on the 22nd. So we're going to continue doing these. This one's very specific because I know it's something that we tried to explain a bit, but it's also unsettling to a lot of people. So I wanted to get as much clarity as we can around the situation. Quick little backstory here. The current, we all know the current situation between the GNCC, or at least I think most people on this call do. I will tell you that on Saturday, the day after I was told I'd have this position, I emailed Bob Hogan and Kristen Conrad. We had a call my first week, the Friday of my first week, 45-minute conversation. I think the reality is it was productive, and I think it was positive. I think the reality is, they stated that they are intent on doing the best they can for their members this year under the current situation. And I said on behalf of USA Curling, that's our intent as well. I hope going forward, and I believe going forward, that there's some reconciliation here, but it won't happen this season in time for events, etc. I think it can, and I think I am actively pursuing or promoting a new membership model, and I think that the governance task force will be working towards that as well. And I see this season as a short-term solution to playdowns and to making sure everybody has a chance to compete this year. And I hope that in future years, we're not in this situation. So that said, when all this started, one of the things we wanted to do as staff at USA Curling was ensure that everybody in the geographic area of the GNCC did have a chance to compete if their club was an at-large member of USA Curling. So we've taken on responsibility for 3 at-large playdowns. The ones that's U18s, mixed fours, and men's and women's club nationals. So we will be running those events. I'll start with U18s. One of the U18s is scheduled tentatively is scheduled for December 27th to 30th. That might change depending on the number of entries. But I did speak to Dion War at Schenectady prior even to the members' assembly, and they were gracious enough to say that they would continue to host that playdown, whatever the result of the members' assembly was. So I certainly appreciated that. With other ones, when we were trying to find playdown sites, it was fairly, well, I don't want to say impossible, but pretty difficult in advance of the members' assembly to be actively pursuing sites, partly because as staff, we didn't know which way that vote would go. So we still need sites for a mixed fours playdown. We do have one club that's interested in that, and we need sites for men's and women's club nationals. Now, the mixed fours nationals are slated for April 12th to 16th in Denver. The club nationals, we're close to announcing a host for that, but that event will take place probably in the last week of March, first week of April. And the U18s are scheduled for January 12th to January 15th. Another note on the U18 playdown, I do realize it's close to the nationals. And I did consult with a number of junior curling parents about that, the proximity of the two events and how it's probably less than ideal. But the general consensus I got back was that that is an ideal spot for the U18 Nationals Playdown. So we decided not to try to move it. Schenectady also had that time blocked. But the idea is as well that, you know, every number of teams will play in the Playdown, only one team of each gender, maybe depending on the number of entries, two, would be competing at nationals. So we would actually impact fewer teams by running it then. I think looking ahead, we will try to move the U18 Nationals at least a week back, so there's a 3-week window there. There's close to a 3-week window, but I think one more week in the future would be better. So that's the state of things. I will say entry fees will be what they were when the GNCC was running these playdowns, $150 per team. The entry fees all go to the club. So clubs that host will retain those fees. We will provide umpire and will be active in helping clubs source timers for the events and provide that equipment. So we'll take that on and we'll endeavor to make it much like any other playdown in the past, just as an at-large. And teams that are successful will be in those national events. So with that, I'll throw it open to questions and comments. There's also the chat is open if people want to put anything in there, but I think you can all unmute yourselves, or Jenna can let people in. Oh, there's a hand up. Jenna, can you let that person in? Oh, here we go. Hi there.
Hi, Dean. It's Ivo from.
Hey, Ivo. How are you?
Very good. How are you?
Good. Long time no see.
Yeah. Wanted to ask, is there any official guidelines from the USA Curling in terms of like recommendations for ice maintenance during those playdowns? We have been very fortunate during the years to follow the like a competitive schedule with scrape before every draw. Are there any official guidelines, or will that be communicated or try to be like worked out with a host club when we find them?
Yeah, great question, Ivo. And yes, I'll work closely with Dion and Schenectady to you know to have the best ice possible. It will depend, of course, on what sort of manpower or human power they can provide, but I see no reason why they wouldn't. So yeah, I mean, we always want to make any event we run, whether it's a national championship or these playdowns, we're trying to have the best ice conditions we have. So yeah, want to make that happen. John Gillespie.
Hey, Dean, thanks for this for one. And then two, I know you said that this would be available as a recording, but could there also be like a summary snapshot of what was discussed here, either on the page or on some sort of drop-down page of the curling site, so that we could, you know, allow our members to kind of go and digest that and look at, you know, especially with dates and specific things, you know, as best that can be disseminated out there, or at least publicized, so that people have a source to go to?
Sure, I think that makes sense, John. I will. I'm not going to promise I'll have it up tomorrow, but I think following this, we'll put the recording up, and certainly we can create a post on the site with some of exactly what you've explained there. So yeah, we'll get that done
tomorrow, Dean. I was hoping by 8 o'clock.
Just kidding. I'm trying, John. I'm trying, but we're not. You know, we've got a great team, but we're not that good.
And we appreciate it. Thank you, Dean.
All right. I'm looking in the chat. Trevor, no, I didn't announce location for dates for at-large club playdowns. I did announce that they are likely, the nationals are likely to be in the last week of March, first week of April. We do need a site for at-large club national playdowns. We have a site for the U18s, just to recap, and a potential site for the mixed fours. Yeah, no, somebody else is asking that. I'm sorry if I confused people with that. I was just trying to give people some sense of when the club nationals would be held. That's one of the last sites we're securing, and we should have news on that early next week. I will, and there's some, so Jonathan Lee asked if we can repeat or post in the chat any dates for those that just arrived. We'll put that in the post we put up, Jonathan. You can find mixed fours as settled in Denver, 412 to 416, and the U18s is at Rock Creek, also outside of metropolitan Denver, 112 to 115. I will say too, right now we have for U18 playdowns, we have 5 teams signed up. So I believe, and maybe someone on this call can confirm with me, but I believe last year it was, I think it was about 8 on the boys' side and maybe 5 on the girls' side. But I forgive me, but I don't know the exact numbers. So I guess
correct.
Sorry, go ahead, Laura.
I was gonna ask, is there any backup plan for if you don't find a site soon?
A site for Club Nationals?
Yeah.
No, we'll find a site. We're in the business of running national championships, so we have to find a site. Championship sites have been difficult for everyone. I will say this, and somebody asked me about this in an email this week. And I know last year there were, a number of our championships didn't come off to the level we want them to. We are committed to making every national championship feel as special as it should. I think we got off to a good start with the Arena Nationals Championship, and we will continue to push forward with that. One of the directions I've given to Aaron Kaler, our events manager, is when people walk into a national championship, doesn't matter whether it's in an arena or a curling club setting, it shouldn't feel like league night. So we're working pretty hard on that, and I think we'll have a great club national championship.
And what about for playdowns?
I don't have a site for that. Part of what I'm reaching out here tonight is to see, I understand that people are disappointed, have been disappointed with USA Curling and may be reluctant to host. It's also late, which I also understand. I was a club president. I know how hard it is. But the reality is I personally don't want to disenfranchise any curlers who want to compete. So we do need a site or sites. Like I said, I think we have one for mixed fours. Women's Club Nationals, I would hope we'd have more entries, but we've typically not had a lot. So, but hopefully we get more this year. The soonest, somebody's asking me here to, sorry, does that answer your question, Laura?
I guess I was asking if there would be any backup plan if you can't find a site at large itself.
Well, I'm not sure what that backup plan would be, to be honest. I'm, in light of not playing the event, which wouldn't be great, that would be less than ideal. I'm not sure what we do. We'd have to consider some backup plan. I'm not sure how we would decide an at-large representative if we can't have a playdown. Chris is asking the soonest the Club National playdowns may happen. Again, it's going to come down to some level of when clubs can make their clubs available if they're willing to host these events. I would say the earliest would be very late 2022. There might be a club could host it in that same window that U18s is, but I think it's more likely to be in January or February, which would still give the winning team a full month to arrange plans for Club Nationals Championship. Brady?
Hello, Dean. How are you?
Hey, Brady, how are you?
I'm doing well, thanks.
How's the field for, you got a full field for the mixed doubles, I know, so that's good.
Yep, absolutely. Very full and
we're excited
looking good.
We're excited to be there. I'm hoping I can get down to it, so.
That would be great. I know there was a chat that asked about what is the at-large now is in terms of how many clubs and were there at-large clubs prior to the GNCC moving to the at large, or some clubs from the GNCC? Do you know that answer, number one? And then number two, with the club nationals being probably the last week of March, early April, you could foresee potential of a club hosting maybe even as late as beginning of March. Wouldn't you agree?
Yeah, I mean, in an ideal world, it's earlier than that, but certainly I'm willing to entertain all options there because I want to have, we want to have the event. So yeah, we typically we like to have a bigger window than that, but this is an unusual situation. So I'm open to a club basically wanting to host at any time from, between probably over the holidays, post Christmas, post 25th, all the way to early March for any of these playdowns. So, I was a club president. I know how difficult an ask this is, right? Clubs have calendars and they're busy. So obviously a club will have to be willing to make some moves to accommodate. So I understand that. In terms of at-large clubs and what it was like in the past, previously at-large clubs were largely in the West, and basically sort of in a geographic region where they weren't closely tied to a regional association enough to join it. We always encouraged clubs to join regional associations and tried to get them to, but if it didn't work out, then they became at large. That said, right now, the majority of at-large clubs exist in the geographic region of the GNCC, so that's why we want to have the playdown in that area.
Thank you, Dean.
Sure. I think I see Jenna Bercheski's put up the dates of those of the two that are secured, and for anybody who's joining late, I'll add that the Club Nationals most likely last week of March, first week of April. I do recognize too that, there's probably a number of clubs their best option for these events would be between Christmas and New Year's. I personally don't think it's too late for it to be then. So certainly willing to consider that, which would be the same window as U18s, but Club Nationals and Mixed Fours don't have a crossover really with U18s. So certainly open to that, clubs that can be available in that weekend. And like I said before, if someone's joining late, I understand the reluctance. There are people there's still a lot of sensitivity and raw emotion out there, and I understand that. And if your club declines for that reason, I understand. But I also know that we'd like to make sure every curler has an opportunity to reach Club Nationals or Mixed Fours or U18s.
Hey, Dean, this is Brady again. I mean,
Sure.
just to make, I'm, trying to help you sell it a little bit.
Thanks, Brady.
Yeah. 150 per team goes to the club, you said.
Yeah.
What's been the numbers over the last, do you know the numbers over the last, and what they maybe can expect, and how many days are you thinking that a tournament would need to, a club would need to have open in order to make that work?
Yeah, it's a great question and a little tricky because last year I think playdown entries were limited a bit by still some reluctance surrounding COVID, et cetera. So, for instance, last year there was no Club Nationals women's playdown because only one team entered. So typically Club Nationals for women's, I believe, has been 4 to 4-ish teams. That's certainly something that looking ahead, I hope we can increase. So that's a relatively easy event to run. And men's Club Nationals has really varied in my experience by the club location. So I think, and I don't know if there's somebody on here who played in Ardsley one year, but I think one year in Ardsley it was well over 20 teams. Maybe Evo can help me out on that, but I believe last year it was 12 teams. So that's ballpark numbers on that. Mixed fours last year was in Chesapeake, and it was 3 teams. So that's certainly that's also a play down that's manageable in a 2-sheet club, frankly. Trevor's saying 12 sounds about right for last year, so I think 12 would be a number to think about it, but I could see that, because I'm hopeful that curlers are coming back to playing and competing, that number gets a little bigger. Krista's asked if we could find one venue to host both men's and women's for club nationals. I'd love to do that. The right venue that's willing to commit the right amount of time. I'd love to put both together. I think it's great because the men's and women's nationals are together. It'd be nice if the playdowns were together. I think that's always creates a better atmosphere. I can't exactly say, Brady, the number of days because these things are sort of accordion in nature. It depends on the number of teams entered, but that gives you some idea of what it would be like. We could do the math on 150, 10 teams. There we go. Dan Mackold's weighing in. He remembers 17 men's and 4 or 5 women's teams. So that's even maybe a little lower than I thought. So that's manageable. That was a 3-sheet club, and I think a really good play down. So this is a good opportunity for a club that's not 4 sheets to host something, whether it's mixed fours or women's club nationals on its own. I don't know if any of the women on the call want to weigh in, but my sense is most women considering club nationals would rather have it held at the same time. Yes, that's a capital yes from Krista. I mean, I think it's a better environment, so I would too. One thing we're doing with Club Nationals, just so people know, I think Club Nationals is one of our most important events. So whatever people may feel about our interest in what some call grassroots curling, I tend to just call curling, but I think it's one of our most important events. So that's why we really want the Nationals this year to feel as special as it should. We have shortened the Nationals. We've made it a 24-team field total, so 12 men's, 12 women's, 2 pools of 6, and then that actually shortens the event a little bit, which I think is going to hopefully give more people an opportunity to compete in it. So that's the idea behind that. I will say too, I just had a call this week with the CEO of Curling Canada, and I can't promise anything, but one of the things we definitely discussed was having the winners of our club nationals play the winners of their what used to be the Dominion Club Championship. So create some sort of international event. That was something we both brought up together almost at the same time. So going forward, I'd like to see that to add another layer to this. That'd be exciting. Ryan's asked if we have approached clubs in other regions to host the at-large club national playdowns. Good question, Ryan. I haven't yet. Largely because I think it's fairest if it's in the geographic region of the GNCC, as large as that region is. I know it stretches from Florida to Maine, so there may be clubs in another region that would be closer, but I'd like to keep it in the geographic area of the GNCC if possible. If anybody wants to discuss this further with me in person, I'm going to be up at Broomstones this weekend at the junior qualifier. I'll be there Saturday and Sunday. So if you have any thoughts you want to share with me, then I'll be up there. Less in the not virtual way. I don't see any more hands up or anything else in the chat. I appreciate the suggestion of putting a document up on our website to help explain this. Laura's got her hand up.
Yeah, I have a question. So you
Sure.
said there would be it would cost $150 a person. Is that what you said, or per team?
Per team, which is it's exactly what we believe, anyways. I'm pretty sure is what the GNCC has charged in the past for this playdown.
Okay, because I know how it used to be was there's a fee, for USA curling, and then on top of that there was a regional fee. And so, are you talking about only the regional fee, or are you talking about the fee as a whole is going to the club?
Yeah, the fee as a whole is going to club $37.50 per person. I'd have to find out a little bit more about what the nationals entry is and how we do that. There's some discussion about whether we even have that fee. And there's a lot of discussion internally about whether we should. And I'm not sure I can't tell you for sure whether we will or not, but I'd rather it just be $150 per team, quite frankly. Jonathan Lee says the nationals fee is currently $600 this year. Now, what it brings up, Jonathan, that's interesting is the way some of our other events have evolved. That's become, it used to be when you went in a national championship event, you paid to be in the national championship event from the start. And things like the 5 and under qualifier, you only register for the national event once you make it. So this has sort of fallen into that other more gray area that we're going to take a look at. Now, Trevor's suggesting $150 per team is low. I'd probably share that thought, Trevor, but in this particular year, I'm not so sure we want to boost it what it's been in the past. I will say, when we get to this is really not perhaps focused here, but as this season goes on, you're going to hear, I believe, a lot of discussion about a new membership model. So as an organization, we're committed to that. Unfortunately, in my mind, it's something we can't pull off this year. But I think everyone at USA Curling is committed to a different model. So hopefully by next curling season, there is something in place. Yeah, Trevor makes a good point. I mean, the money goes to the club, so that's helpful to the club that's hosting. And more money for the club would be good. Trying to balance more money for the club with the competitors' costs. I don't know if all of these events would be 4 days. Certainly mixed fours wouldn't have to be 4 days. I'm certainly willing to consider different options on that. What we were trying to do is stick with what the GNCC fee has been in the past. Just on the club hosting thing, I will add quickly while we're talking about it. Yeah, Trevor, if you find out it was more than 150 per team, that'd be great news. So happy to hear it. If anybody else weighs in and says they paid more than that, we thought it was $37.50 per player. But yeah, go ahead, Evo. Is that you?
Yeah, last year, so normally there is $110 was fee that would go to the USA Curling plus the 37
50 per
something
player.
going to GNC. So actually, it was like close to 140 plus 140, 150 per player.
All right. Well, we were expecting to take no money from this, so maybe we could push that up a bit to get more money to the host club and still keep it within what it was last year. So last year was it was 260 per team, I guess is what you're saying.
Every person would sign up individually, and it was per
Yeah.
person was going somewhere about 140, I believe, per
Right.
person.
I'm going with Trevor Gow. He's usually has these things right. He says 170.50. Yeah, well, Dan's asking about trip officials. We'll pay the officials, which we do at every championship. So we'll do that. We'll cover their expenses. Trevor, of course, already has a chart up. Thank you, Trevor. We'll capture that. Can I get a screenshot of that right now? I will say this is not territory we've been in before, so I appreciate the feedback here. I think Krista asked if it's going to be disseminated. The best place to find information is always going to be in the news on our website. We put most releases, qualification procedures up there. And we will also put out a newsletter shortly with some information, links to information. Homepage of our website, usually the best place to find it. Although we do post on social, usually just with a link. So. In terms of methods to get communications out, Krista, I would say that we try to use as many as we can because lots of curlers aren't on Facebook or Twitter or Instagram. Other curlers are. Some don't read emails, some do. So the more platforms we can get information out on, the better.
Hey, Dean,
But
this is Brady. Oh, sorry.
No, go ahead. Sorry, Laura. Yeah, go ahead, Laura.
oh, I was just wondering, can you maybe get this on like a centralized website? Because at least as I've been seeing it, it's been like separate press releases, so it's like hard to find them. So maybe if all the information could be on one website so that everybody could see when they were. Is it just the myusacurling.com is the only place? Is that
No,
right?
usacurling.org. If you go there, latest news is where we put it first. And I agree that our website needs some improvements in finding things, but it will be on the homepage. So I don't know if I want to create another place for people to go.
Right. I guess I was just like there I at least previously there used to be like one place, for example, the qualification procedures page,
Yeah.
where you could see everything, but I don't know if you'll be able to update stuff on there.
No, we can do that.
Okay.
Look, we'll try to put it in as readily available as possible on our site, understanding we are making changes to that to make it easier for people to follow. But yeah, good point. Make it as accessible as possible. Sorry, Brady, you had a question, I think?
I was just gonna suggest, I mean, if we don't get anybody, I mean, maybe the option of asking a club that's already hosting an event, say a men's event or something like that, to see if they could fit it in as extra draws. They're already dedicating that weekend to a spiel. Maybe starts a little bit earlier, maybe goes a little longer. It's just
Reasonable
something
idea. Yeah, I
just
appreciate it.
another.
Yeah, I appreciate it because we may need to be creative. So that's not a bad thought. I hope we don't have to be, but I can understand that.
I think I need a little arthroscopic cleanup in there.
Sorry, was that Joe? Oh, no, I can't. Oh, Rich caller just joined. Joe, did you have a question? Or we might hear Joe's dinner conversation soon here. Yep, yeah, they muted. So, our entry fees. Lauren has a question here, right? And the entry fees for our national championships in the past were quite varied. For what we could determine recently, not much reason. So we are, yeah, they're at 150 per person at this point. But again, we're looking at this, not collecting them until people are actually in the national championship. I'm a little confused. The division price is $600 per team. I'm not entirely sure, Lauren. I'd have to double check with that. More than anything, we want to make sure that this at-large playdown is as similar to what's been done in the past. So I will do some more digging on what's been charged in the past and what's reasonable, and also taking into account that clubs need some compensation to do this. You're right, Evo. It has been collected in the past at registration for playdowns. There's a lot of math going on here, and so a lot of different numbers here. I think the best thing I can offer is that we'll get this document up with really clarity on the financials, hopefully by Friday. So we can, this discussion has been helpful just to help frame it. But we'll do that so it's as clear as possible in terms of entry fee money. Thanks, Jonathan. It's helpful. I think as our nature of some of our national championships have changed, this points out a need to revisit that whole structure, quite frankly, for these regionally based playdowns. Evo?
No, I second that if we either need to change this or just revision it, or maybe for this, get some portion of this division fee back to the organizers as a help to entice them to participate and host.
Yeah, I don't see that as you know, significant revenue for our organization, and if it was, it's a bigger problem. So I think there's a better way to do it. Among other changes we're planning at USA Curling. I can add that to the list here. Biggest thing I wanted to impress upon people is that we're committed to hosting these, and also that I hope it's a 1-year short-term solution, and not, I don't see this as a long-term path forward to this. It is also interesting. There really are only these. There's 4 regionally based playdowns now, but arena nationals, the region can determine. There's different ways they'll be determining their playdown or their representatives going forward. But we've moved in recent years to nationals, and 5 and under nationals, for instance, isn't regionally based. So we have some thought to put into this that hasn't gone into it in the past. Men's at large, Dustin's still looking for venues for the men's at large playdown, the women's at large playdown. National Club Championship, we should be announcing pretty shortly. There's just some discussions to have next week. The person at the club where we're hoping to host it couldn't need it till this week. They were away. So yeah, the at-large playdowns we need. We have U18s covered thanks to Schenectady and their generosity. We need one for mixed fours. We have a potential for that club. And then men's and women's club nationals, which ideally, and I think expressed here as well, would be one site for both. Hope that helps, Dustin. I don't know if anybody saw, but we did announce a mixed doubles nationals site today. We should be able to announce the men's and women's nationals site any day now. A little frustrating. We're trying to get this contract signed with the venue. So asking beyond finances, what are the other support that USCA will give to the regional club that hosts? There was very little support for last year's mixed playdowns. Well, frankly, we weren't involved in the playdowns last year, though the regions run those, and we typically don't get involved. This year, we're taking it on so that players have a path forward. So we would provide a chief umpire. We will work with the club to provide timers, and basically treat it like as do the best we can and on an event. So those are 2 things we'll provide. So I would hope, that people, my goal would be that if you played in the mixed playdowns last year, that this year you'd think there was more support. So I'm not sure what happened last year. I wasn't there when the GNCC ran it in Chesapeake, but at USA Curling, we don't want to run bad events. We have essentially 3 additional ones to run this year in these at-large playdowns, and we're going to make sure that they're up to a standard that suits us. So we're at 7:46. I'm going to suggest we end this in 10 minutes. Yeah, Shelley Dropkin, thank you for that. To me, this is a one-off year, right? It's a one-off, and my goal and our goal is to make sure that curlers in the geographic region that is the GNCC have a chance to compete. So it's always been our goal. And it's not particularly easy right now, but Laura asked about a plan B. I wish we had a plan B. I'd rather try to get this done the right way, but I'm not sure what a plan B would be. So if we can get those sites, would be great, and we will do everything we can to support the club that hosts. Yeah, Krista, I mean, I realize that it's unusual times, and hopefully we have in future seasons, we have more clarity. Like I said at the start, I was encouraged by my conversation with Bob and Kristen. I think the 3 of us could agree that we weren't at a point this season to do anything besides try to serve our curlers as best we can, both of us. So, but I'm hopeful that task force and new thinking on both governance and a membership model can get us to a better place for next season. Thanks, Dion. Dion, you missed. Dion says their ice has been fast with a lot of curl. That's terrific to hear. Appreciate that, Dion. You might have joined a little late, Dion, but we also had a moment of silence for Charlie, and I know that hasn't been an easy few days for you or anyone at your club. My good friend Bill Stopera is texting me like crazy, so I'm trying to ignore him. I'll tell you that. All right, well, with no more questions, unless I get a last one in the chat, I think we'll close this off. I will tell you there's a college curling town hall on the 22nd. There's another town hall on November 30th, a more general one to give you some idea of some of the things we've been tackling in this past month. Planning to make those regular. We'll keep having these until and keep reporting on what we're doing and trying to also source good ideas from curlers out there. So two other things I can announce that maybe aren't out yet, but I certainly can announce them here, is we have created an arena club working group that's going to tackle some specific initiatives, and we just filled out our athlete safety working group as well. So that group will get started very shortly, and want to have that group with some specific work to do and revise and revamp and improve the policies we have in place. So those two updates. Thanks, everybody. And if you want to hear more, November 30th, we'll be back. And of course, feel free to reach out to any of us. Jenna Bercheski, who's managed this. Thank you, Jenna. I don't know if anybody's dealt with Jenna or Gabby in membership services, but they're a great asset to the organization and are really working hard to help people out when they have issues. And so you can reach out to them or directly to me or anyone else. But they're doing great work, and I hope people recognize that, and I know how dedicated they are to making our members feel heard and get issues resolved. So thanks, everybody. Good night. Take care.
Dean.
All right. Thank you.